Hello children, today we're looking for all different kinds of wildlife we could find in the area on and around a pretty large South Florida intracoastal mangrove swamp island. Let's see just how much we could find. This right here was quite a surprise. I had never seen a yellowfin mojara this close to the coast, and especially have never gotten this good and clear views of one. While this trait isn't clearly shown on all individuals, this individual clearly shows the namesake yellow coloration on the ventral fin. Besides that though, this species also has a pretty distinctive body shape, with the very sharp edges on the tail fin. Gobies are a very understudied group, and because of that, plus the not very great views I had of this specimen right here, it can't be identified to a species. But it's still cool to even see gobies. Especially the very weird, almost eel-like way they swim, and the way they camouflage into the rocks. The checkered puffer is the only pufferfish I've ever seen, and it makes sense as it's the most common species in South Florida. Interestingly though, Florida is the northernmost part of this species' range, as the majority of this species' range is in the Caribbean and South and Central America. The mangrove tree crab is a relatively small, thick-legged and small pinchered crab species found almost exclusively in mangrove swamps. These are a very common sight in coastal Florida, crawling up and down mangrove trees and other tall surfaces in and around the mangrove swamp. However, this one managed to make its way onto the railing of one of the boardwalks we were walking on. Despite how much it sticks out from the wood on the boardwalk, the patterning on the back allows mangrove tree crabs to perfectly blend in with the bark of mangrove trees, and they could be very hard to spot unless you see them crawling. This is an extremely tame species, as you can see from how close I can get to it. While I can't tell exactly what species of fiddler crabs these are, they're definitely some sort of broad-fronted fiddler crabs. In general, fiddler crabs could be easily identified by the very large pincer on one side of the male's body. It was amazing seeing all these fiddler crabs going in and out of the burrows in the ground. These burrows were practically everywhere. And this yellow-crowned night heron right here was definitely taking advantage of that. There's not really much else I believe this bird could have been looking for besides these fiddler crabs. Now you may be asking, why is this called a yellow-crowned night heron if there's no yellow whatsoever on the head? And that's because this is a juvenile. At first, yellow-crowned night herons are overall like a grayish-brown with white speckles on them. But as they grow, they start to develop slaty gray coloration, black and white stripes on the face, and long yellow feathers on the top of the head. Very interesting to me how that happens. This right here is probably the most confusing find of the day in my opinion. Normally the raccoons I see here have a lot more black on the face, and the overall coloration of the fur is more of a grayish-brown. This individual seemed to match the description of the Florida Keys subspecies, with its relatively small size and pale coloration. However, this would be very far north for that. This right here is my first time seeing a click beetle, can't tell what species, but a click beetle of some sort in its larval form, which are known as wireworms. This is a species I have been targeting in South Florida for a long time. My lifer, Orpheolella punctata, a grasshopper species without a common name for some reason. It is highly variable, and we found individuals ranging from brown to green to gray. They are almost identical to Orpheolella pallidna, the spotted-winged grasshopper, which also lives in South Florida. However, Orpheolella punctata has a much thicker hind femur. I'm very happy to have finally seen this species. It was amazing catching one. Something I couldn't get my hands on though was this absolutely beautiful giant amoeba. Like most reptile species in South Florida, the giant amoeba is invasive. They are native to South American forests, and that, along with their very fast speed, is the reason why amoebas are also known as jungle runners. Amoebas are very closely related to whiptails, which is why juveniles are very similar to our native six-lined race runners. But amoebas grow much bigger as adults, and their color pattern almost completely changes. These guys are also very closely related to the giant tegus, another invasive species from the neotropics, and one I fortunately have not come across yet. The giant amoeba is not the only amoeba species that's established in South Florida though. While it is the most common, The dusky amoeba is present on Key Biscayne, and much of the green coloration is replaced by a beautiful blue-grayish coloration in adults. That's definitely a species I'd love to feature on the channel in the future, but this giant amoeba right here is equally as beautiful in my opinion.